This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on government's ban on import of laptops and computers. The participants are Jiten Kumar Jain, cyber security and IT expert, and Gaura Dhawanlal, anchor.
Hello and welcome to our program. India has announced limitations on the import of laptops, tablets and some types of computers with immediate effect on security grounds and also to stimulate domestic manufacturing. Well, topic today for conversation is government's ban on the import of laptops and computers, and we are delighted to welcome in the studio Jiten Jain, cyber security and IT expert. Jiten, welcome to the program.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jiten, tell me, this ban, was it in the pipeline or has it come as a surprise?
No, it is not a surprise because you see, 3 years ago or when Galwan issue happened, when many of our soldiers have lost life on the border, government was going extra mile and government was showing the political will to ensure that this interference of Chinese mobile apps and hardware in Indian ecosystems, especially in telecom and energy sector, had to be tackled with. And government went on to ban almost 350 Chinese apps to ensure that there is no mass-scale surveillance which were carried out in Indian devices. And then it was also a bigger concern that what about hardware? I mean, India, for last 10 years, we have been, mindlessly importing Chinese hardware and gadgets and putting it into our telecom sector and energy sector, making it a huge security concern. And we had no assessment at how to deal with the situation. So government then came up with a telecom security directive where they said that critical equipments and gadgetry in the telecom sector can be imported and allowed only from trusted sources which are approved by the government. So they, instead of banning certain companies, they drew up a whitelist.
Okay.
They could only import from these trusted vendors or trusted sources after the due diligence by the government. So I think the messaging was very clear that government was going to put India's national security and economic interest on the forefront in cyber security sector, and it is not going to play the Chinese ball anymore, considering the hostile relationship we are having. Now, to deal with this gadgetry which was freely flowing into the offices of private companies, institutions here in the form of laptops, gadgets which were imported from China, and these reports across the world about the suspicious conduct of these companies which were installing backdoors in the laptop, infecting supply chains, compromising data centers. We have seen reports how Chinese companies put the backdoors during manufacturing and then those machines went on to American data centers. So obviously there was a supply chain concern. So government, instead of solving this issue in isolation, I think they took a larger broad perspective of the situation and they decided that to protect the economic interest of India, since we are the largest market of smartphones and laptops in the world today, and considering our national security considerations, they took a step that now any sort of import of laptops, computer or these gadgets or servers can only be imported after obtaining a due license from the government of India, which will only be given when you are importing from the trusted sources of user-friendly economy. I think it is a brilliant step which encompasses both our economic and security considerations.
So you spoke of us being the largest market, and definitely we do have dependence on the import of laptops and computers. Any wean-off measures in the ban so that this weaning off can take place without too much of an economic impact?
See, in last 4 or 5 months this year, between April to June itself, I think we imported around $20 billion worth of this laptops and desktops, which is almost like 150,000 crores. It's just a quarter or 4 months, I would say. So imagine the size of the market. We are today the biggest smartphone population in the world. We are today the biggest consumers of data in the world, and we are the third largest economy in the world. So the government intention is that when we are the biggest market, when we are the biggest consumers, then the factory should be inside India, and our economy should benefit both in terms of revenue and citizens should also benefit in terms of jobs. Third, once you manufacture in India, also you are under Indian jurisdiction. So, infecting hardware or putting any backdoors might be very difficult. So that will also solve the issue of security considerations, because I think if you put these things into the restricted import category and then issue trusted licenses only, then I think more and more companies then will be in a way incentivized to create industries in India and put factories and plants in India and manufacture these devices right here in India. So it will have a bigger economic impact in terms of jobs, revenue and the supply chains. It will also solve the national security considerations. And in this entire process, to ensure that interest of individual citizens or the loan customers or the research institutions are not impacted, government has exempted the import of single laptops, tablets or ultra small computers which are purchased from these e-commerce portals like Amazon and Flipkart or by courier or post from some countries. I mean, for individual personal use in a way, these are exempted. They are not under this import licensing. And if you are a school or a research institution or a lab, And if you want to import, say, 15, 20 servers for a specific purpose, they are also exempted. So as long as there is no commercial use, I would say, you do not have any restrictions on the import today.
What do you think would be the gestation period for us to actually completely be independent in this area? About a year, 2 years? What do you think?
Government in last 3 years or 5 years, I would say, has been trying to incentivize the semiconductor industry to ensure that hardware are manufactured here. We have focused a lot on software side in last 20 years. Now we are focusing on hardware manufacturing in India. How to make India the biggest hardware manufacturing hub. So government is giving subsidies. I mean, today in Semicon PM said that you could have 50% subsidies for what the cost you are investing in setting up plants and industries. There are PLI schemes, which is almost, I think, into billions of dollars, and half of that is not even consumed. So I think there is enough economic incentivization. Yes, there are some certain policy tweaks and changes which keep happening with time. But overall, if you see, I think once you put these things under import restrictions, automatically these big companies, once they sense the size and scale of market, they will be forced or they will be incentivized or they'll be anyways willing to set up the manufacturing plants here in India. And once you start manufacturing in India, then automatically you'll find Indian partners, Indian joint ventures, and slowly there will be an automatic technology transfer which will happen in India. So in a way, we will become self-independent in terms of manufacturing, but in terms of technology, I think we are maybe a decade up.
In India, the second-hand or the pre-owned market is also very strong. So any recommendations for data and information hygiene, certain checks and security measures which individuals should take?
I have always strongly advised people never to buy second-hand laptops and mobile phones and never to sell their personal devices in a second-hand market because of the security issues. When you sell your laptop or a mobile, which is the repository of your entire life's personal data, your banking records, your net banking applications, your emails, anything, I think we as a society are not much into cyber hygiene and cyber education. We end up making mistakes. We sometimes just sell our old phones so that we can put some more money and buy new ones without realizing that, our data in that old phone might get leaked. Our old phones may be used to hack our old banking accounts. Our old phones may be used to create some sort of, troublesome situations in life. And those who are buying the second-hand gadgetry do not even know who had the custody of that device, whether it was used by a robber, terrorist or a hacker. We don't know. So I strongly say that never buy a second-hand device, never sell your device to a second-hand market, destroy it, go for e-recycling, buy a new device. And sometimes if you're buying refurbished device from a known trusted vendor from the company itself, then go for a proper bill and a proper chain of custody of that device. But I would advise that always go for a new device and always never sell your device, even if you're selling it back to the company.
You spoke of chain of custody. And I think there are people who either already have second-hand ones now because of these things coming, maybe wanting to run them for a longer period. How would people who are already using them, get this chain?
This is more of a cultural issue. See, when you sell an automobile, there is a proper chain of custody and sell and purchase record in terms of your, RC and your number plates and all.
True.
But it is not the case in terms of these electronic devices. I mean, hardly you know the IMEI number of your own phone. You don't even remember the 16-digit number. And when we sell it in the second-hand market, nobody asks for a bill. And when you even buy, you also don't ask for a bill. So there is never a chain of custody. You don't know who was the previous owner, how he bought it, whether he purchased, whether he robbed, whether he stole. What is the origin of the device, from where it has come. So, it is as good as buying a stolen car and you could, foresee the consequences. So I would strongly advise that even if you have a second-hand device, don't buy it next time and don't sell it further.
Right. And if it's possible, take some documentation from the previous people that you picked it up from, some kind of legitimacy to that.
Yes.
Right. When we talk of, national security has been the primary reason why this ban has been brought in. And in terms of how are we seeing cyber security, because we're bringing it now, there has to be a legacy effect. Are we bringing in something for controlling the legacy effect of something which has already been done?
Of course, we in today also India, we do not have any rational assessment of how much dependency our energy sector or, telecom sector has had of this old legacy Chinese devices which have been installed. How much access China has. There was a news in New York Times day before that how American military in Pentagon has been scanning all their military installations, aircrafts. So if the world's largest economy and then the security industry is also threatened by a Chinese malware or presence of a Chinese backdoor in their military installations and devices and the aircraft. We have a hostile border, we have a hostile relationship. They are right there. So we also have to be equally worried. And I think it is anybody's guess that all this exercise is being done to ensure that we pull the plug out of Chinese imports which have been flowing into India. I mean, we have been financing our own destruction. We have been financing our own enemy. So I think this will now be taken care of both in terms of economic interest and the national and security interests of India.
And in terms of, visibility, advocacy, cyber literacy of these messages going out, are there certain policies in place or certain actions being taken?
I think government is trying to impart digital education. I think the problem here in India is that we have literally leapfrogged the digitalization of our public services. We have digitalized the entire Indian financial sector, Indian economy. We have opened 40 crore Jan-Dhan accounts based on a digital identity. Our entire financial ecosystem today is based on Aadhaar. I mean, most of it, like UPI and all, which are now going global. We are been able to, vaccinate 100 crore people based on that single digital ID. We have been able to impart certificates. So our digital footprint is increasing, and so is increasing the threat factor or, the threat landscape. And at that speed, we have not been able to impart digital education or cybersecurity education to our citizens, which remains a challenge. So I think maybe in the times of come, government might focus on cybersecurity of ordinary citizens of India.
How severe do you think, Jitin, the economic impact of this ban would be on market prices?
There might be an impact in short term, maybe say for 2 to 3 months. But in long term, I think the Western or the European manufacturers or the Korean manufacturers would be able to obtain a license and they will have a good run. And Chinese would be now looking at an honorable exit.
Because we are a huge market, and it is like once this gestation period, even for investors, people coming into India to manufacture is over, there is a lot of amount of profits to be reaped. It's a great market.
Of course, if you are manufacturing here, then there is no problem with this entire policy. It's only when you are manufacturing in other countries and importing here, making money and disappearing, that is where government is now coming up with this policy that, look, if we are the biggest market, if we are the biggest consumers, the factory has to be here.
Jitin, talking about, and technology is something which is also very, very attractive to people and wanting to upgrade. Most of us buy new laptops or phones, not because the older one is redundant, but because we want to upgrade. So do you think that these upgrades, there is of course I'm sure some authenticity, but do you think that it's also a lot of hype and a marketing hype, and how is this going to affect the growth of the market?
I think, we are going to be a $5 trillion economy, and every quarter we are importing $20 billion worth of laptops and gadgets and computers, and this market is going to grow at 6%. And it can only happen when people keep buying more and more. So sometimes I think companies want to sell a device every year. They say that a device might work very well for 10 years, but they program it in a way automatically becoming slower. So I think this is going to happen, but we have to see that how much of this contribution will come from the second-hand or the refurbished device industry.
Right. As a cybersecurity expert, what would be some suggestions, some key points that you'd like the people to know through this program?
I think I would say to all our audience that we are standing in the dawn of a digital age. We all must contribute in whichever way we can to a rise of a new India, and we must buy every hardware or every mobile or every laptop, possible within our economic capability, which is manufactured here in India. That way, we will not only serve our economy, our security interests, also help our people get more jobs and our industry, our economy becomes more self-reliable. I think every drop counts. Every drop fills the ocean, and we must all ensure that we must take cybersecurity with a great sense of responsibility and as a society's collective responsibility along with the government to safeguard Indian national cybersecurity playbook.
Right. So what we are hearing you say is that, of course, educate ourselves on what cybersecurity is, what it requires, and take it forward. If everybody can become an ambassador of cybersecurity, I think that's the only way to reach our huge market.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You are listening to a discussion on government's ban on import of laptops and computers. The participants were Jitain Kumar Jain, cyber security and IT expert, and Gaura Dhawanlal, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsttalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.